Gentleman from Maryland is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Along those lines, I'd like to point out that this wasn't just raised 2 days ago in a letter from the White House. This was raised on April 12th by a letter from Mr. Zwanitzer's counsel to you. And it said explicitly that the president, these deal with the president's personal papers and personal information. Therefore, the committee should seek the information through the executive branch. So this came up on April 12th. And then in addition to that, as Mr. Herr's report points out, and we've had that for months now, this information went from Mr. Zwanitzer to the Department of Justice. And in fact, some of the information that the chairman referenced, the materials that were deleted, Mr. Zwanitzer wouldn't even have those because they had to be restored by the Department of Justice after they received the computer that he had and used it to try and delete the information. So this is information that the committee should be seeking from the White House and from the Department of Justice and has chosen not to do it. And it's chosen not to bother with the accommodation process too. And that was raised in the letter that the White House sent 2 days ago. But I think it's important to point out that because this is actually a conflict not between the committee and a private citizen, this is a conflict between the legislative branch and the executive branch. We shouldn't just gloss over the fact that you can try and circumvent all of the law that's been put in place by the Supreme Court over the years in trying to address this and resolve it using a process that's informal. It's called the accommodation process. But the Supreme Court has said each branch must take cognizance of an implicit constitutional mandate to seek optimal accommodation through a realistic evaluation of the needs of the conflicting branches in the particular fact situation. Based on the colloquy just between the chairman and the congressman from California, it's clear that hasn't taken place. And I think it's also important to say that even though you got the letter from the White House 2 days ago, that doesn't mean we had to go forward today. In fact, I think based on what we've heard so far, we really shouldn't have. There should have been an effort to try and resolve this by reaching out to the executive branch and or the Department of Justice to get the information that way. And just along those lines, the other points that were raised, both by the White House and by Mr. Zwanitzer raised the issue in his April 12th letter. First of all, the reporter's privilege, which the draft reporter, the amendment in the nature of a substitute, dismisses based on the waiver clause, but I guess we'll have to have a court resolve that because everything seems to be needing to go to courts these days out of this committee because we're abusing, I think, constitutional authority to have contempt power, but we're using it for fishing expedition after fishing expedition in ways that, sadly, I think are obviously political. Because we know Mr. Herr has this information. We know that he did a criminal investigation and concluded that criminal charges were not appropriate here. And we also know that this committee isn't in the business of second-guessing prosecutorial decisions of that nature. And by the way, the case law that's in place says that in this kind of scenario, the information needs to go to the heart of the matter. And I know you guys say it does. We'll set that to the side for the moment. But the party seeking the information must have exhausted every reasonable alternative source of information. And what the chairman just said a few minutes ago is, you haven't even tried. Haven't even reached out to the Department of Justice to follow up on this. Haven't tried to address this by going to the White House and addressing the privilege arguments that are raised. Instead, we're going to rush to judgment here and try and get this done in a heartbeat. I saw a similar matter to this when I was working on the Whitewater hearings. And Mrs. Clinton had written a book called It Takes a Village. The Republicans subpoenaed the ghostwriter. We didn't go to the ends of, trying to hold somebody in criminal contempt. We used the accommodation process to try and resolve it, and we did. And, I kind of bristle when people call us the lower chamber in contrast to the Senate, but based on the behavior today and the way I think we were abusing our power, I think it's clear that that is the case today. And with that, I yield back.
Gentleman yields back.